you right now, after I make this video, this thing is going to grow legs like a tarantula giving birth. I ain't lying to you. Everybody finna be talking about this story. I can damn near promise you. Let's head over to the Daily Mail and check this out. So, it is, let me blow this all the way up because somebody said something about me not blowing it up all the way. I want to read this for you guys. It says WNBA star who punched Caitlin Clark in the throat caught in fresh violence. Controversy.
A lot was going on in the headlines yesterday. So much was breaking after the matchup that one moment on the court almost slipped past everybody unnoticed until bigger outlets picked it up. Alyssa Thomas has reportedly been involved in another physical incident against an Indiana Fever athlete, this time in a completely separate contest. It sounds unbelievable, almost like exaggerated clickbait, but the situation genuinely occurred.
In fresh violence, controversy with the different Indiana Fever player. The WNBA player who was banned for punching Caitlin Clark in the throat, has been slammed for yet more violence in her latest game against the Indiana Fever. The Phoenix Mercury star Alyssa Thomas served a one-game suspension without pay for a non-basketball act after a post-game review determined that she had recklessly made contact with Caitlin Clark's throat with her closed fist. Now, we all remember when that happened.
The Fever player struck in the face, left with a bloody nose, was Lexie Hull. She took a hard elbow to the face, courtesy of Alyssa Thomas, someone now being described as a repeat offender when it comes to physical altercations, having previously been tied to punching and choking incidents. At this stage, many are calling for a suspension. Expect this story to spread fast and wide once word gets out further. This is the kind of thing people won't stop discussing.
Caitlin Clark's throat with her closed fist. Now, we all remember when that happened. I was in the stands during that game. It was a very, very horrendous, horrific scene to watch. And what if I was to tell you she has another scene? What if I was to tell you that this young lady right here need to be counseled? Like, she need counseling for anger management or something, because this right here is beyond me. Now, the article goes on to say less than 2 weeks on from the unsavory incident, which sparked a nationwide.
Turning to a Daily Mail report on the matter, the headline describes the WNBA player who struck Caitlin Clark in the throat as now facing backlash over a fresh act of violence, this time against a different Fever athlete. The Phoenix Mercury forward had already served a one-game suspension without pay earlier, after a league review found she had recklessly made contact with Clark's throat using a closed fist. That earlier scene was difficult to watch live from the arena. Now there's a second incident, and many are suggesting the player may benefit from anger management counseling, calling the pattern concerning.
From the unsavory incident, which sparked a nationwide storm accusation of racial profiling and involvement from politicians, the rivalry continued on Thursday night when the Fever once again took on the Mercury. Caitlin Clark was not playing. We also did not see Caitlin Clark play due to her ongoing injury recovery. So this time, it was teammate on the other end. Now, this specific teammate is one of the trios, I should say, to the Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever team.
The article notes that less than 2 weeks after the earlier controversy, which triggered nationwide debate, accusations of racial bias, and even political involvement, tensions flared again when Phoenix faced Indiana again on a Thursday night. Clark was sidelined, still recovering from injury, so this time it was one of her teammates on the receiving end. The player involved is part of a trio fans have grown especially attached to: Lexie Hull, Caitlin Clark, and Sophie Cunningham. 3 players' supporters say they'll defend without hesitation. Footage of the moment shows the collision clearly, and in the replay, Hull appears to be in visible distress, possibly in tears.
I should say, to the Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever team. It's 3 women that we love dearly, don't play about. That is Lexie Hull, Caitlin Clark, and Sophie Cunningham. These are the 3 women that we will go over and beyond for. And I'm here to tell you this right here. Before we get into more of this article, I want to show y'all this. I want to show y'all exactly what the hell happened to Lexie. And it looked like she's crying. Is Lexie crying? Watch this.
The clip shows the elbow connecting with her face. And moments later, Thomas appears to smirk or laugh, seemingly pointing toward Hull afterward. Going back to the article, photos accompanying the piece show the contact happening. Many viewers reacted strongly to Thomas seeming amused right after the play, with some suggesting she found humor in nearly injuring Hull's nose. The write-up also references the earlier June 24th confrontation with Clark for comparison.
Watch this. Now watch this play here. Boom. Did she laugh? She pointed at her. Looked like she might have pointed at her.
Reactions online were split. While some viewers saw the contact as a normal part of physical basketball, others viewed it as another example of targeted aggression toward Fever players. The moment was amplified further once broadcast cameras caught Thomas's reaction shortly after contact. One social media post argued she needs to face real consequences, calling the contact intentional. Another comment suggested she should be evaluated by a mental health professional.
Looked like she might have pointed at Lexie Hall. What the hell? Let's get back to this article, man. So these are some of the photos here of the incident. So as you guys can see here, she's elbowing Lexie Hall in the face. This is Lexie Hall here. And she laughed. I knew she laughed. She's laughing about assaulting Lexie Hall. Now, this was the incident with her and Caitlin Clark a few weeks ago. Now, this happened.
A third post called for her removal from the league entirely. Meanwhile, other fans pushed back, framing it as incidental contact rather than a deliberate act, pointing to head movement in the replay as evidence it wasn't intentional. Indiana ultimately won the contest, 92-89, though the incident remains the more talked about moment from the night.
Now, this was the incident with her and Caitlin Clark a few weeks ago. Now, this happened on June the 24th. Now, this was Lexie Hall last night. You tell me if anything is wrong with Alyssa Thomas. Tell me. You tell me, and you be the judge. The article goes on to say, while some believe it to be a simple basketball play, others slam Thomas for yet more violence against Indiana players. The intense reactions was made worse by TV cap.
This latest controversy comes just days after a group of Republican lawmakers weighed in on the broader situation involving Thomas and Clark. 11 members of Congress, led by a Texas representative, sent a formal letter demanding accountability from the league commissioner over the repeated physical incidents targeting Clark. A letter that generated significant media coverage on its own. There's also mention of a reporter who was at the earlier game and who suggested a fan present may have expressed racially charged sentiment while he was covering the event.
Guys, we got Stephanie White getting asked about the Congress situation. And look, I've noticed some fans saying, oh, well, we don't want Congress involved because this is just going to hurt Caitlin. Well, you better hope somebody gets involved because the league don't give a fuck and neither does her team. And I question that her agent gives a shit either because she's part of that little group. So you better hope somebody gets involved regardless of your political affiliations, hurting your little feelings.
Comment sections were filled with reactions, some sarcastic, suggesting Hull should simply expect this kind of treatment, others outright labeling the incidents assaults, and several repeating calls for a mental health evaluation.
Feelings. Well, the players are just going to go after her more. Well, guys, you're cruising towards having an actual incident on the court that's going to be ugly. Uglier than anything we've gotten so far. Eventually, one of these players, Caitlin Clark's going to bump into them, driving through the lane, something. You're going to look up, and one of these players are going to drop 4 or 5 punches right in her face. And it is going to be a nightmare.
Attention has turned instead to comments from head coach Stephanie White regarding congressional interest in player safety, a topic that has generated a wide range of fan responses. Some fans have argued that outside political involvement could end up doing more harm than good for Caitlin Clark specifically. The counterpoint raised is that, Absent stronger action from the league or her own team, outside pressure may be the only thing that produces change, regardless of how anyone feels about the political actors involved.
Going to drop 4 or 5 punches right in her face. And it is going to be a nightmare. All hell's going to break loose. And at the end of the day, the WNBA is an employment organization. We don't think about that a lot because when we watch sports, we don't think about the employer side of things. But they still are a business. And in America, you should be able to work said business without getting the shit beat out of you.
There is concern that tensions on the court could escalate further if nothing changes, with some worrying that a physical confrontation more serious than anything seen so far could eventually occur. The broader point being made is that a professional league is, at its core, an employer, and that employees are entitled to a workplace free from physical harm, even though fans don't always think about sports in those terms. A correspondent covering the story for another outlet visited a recent Phoenix Mercury game and spoke with a fan outside the arena about the ongoing situation, including the recent suspension tied to an on-court incident and the media coverage that followed.
The shit beat out of you. It's a thing. So let's start here. My boy Johnny Root went to this Phoenix Mercury game last night. I'm sorry, man. So he was in the crowd. We've got a Alyssa Thomas supporter. We love Alyssa Thomas. Did you dye your hair there, Karen? Inquiring minds want to know. Wow. So,
the fan interviewed expressed a strong opinion that the treatment Clark has received on the court is deliberate and targeted, and suggested that her demographic background factors into how she's treated. Framing individual player conduct in terms of the race or identity of other players is speculative and not something that can be verified from game footage or league statements, and is not repeated here as fact. Turning to the coach's press conference, White was asked directly about a letter sent this week by several members of Congress to 1BA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, expressing concern about what the letter described as physical hostility directed at Clark, including a line suggesting that some of the incidents may have been racially motivated.
Wow. So, Johnny Root hit the street. My boy does stuff for Outkick, and occasionally I talk to John either on the phone or on X, but we were talking about doing a live stream together, and we may still do that at some point. But he was the man on the scene outside of the arena, and he caught hold of a Caitlin Clark fan, and she kept it real.
White pointed reporters to a statement already released by the team. Pressed further on how she personally handles having a player named in a congressional letter, she said it wasn't something the team could control, adding that the organization isn't affiliated with the groups involved and tries to stay focused on what it can influence. The commentary argues that the league does control how it disciplines players for on-court incidents, and suggests that a pattern of lighter punishments has allowed the situation to escalate to the point of drawing federal attention.
And she kept it real.
What do you think about the whole situation? Caitlin Clark getting punched in the throat, the suspension, media backlash?
It's got to stop. It is deliberate. It's intentional. She's wearing a target on her back. She's not gay. She's not black.
So you'd say 100% there is a racial element behind this, and there's a sexuality aspect to this because she's white, straight, and from rural America.
She's the golden goose of the WNBA, and people are jealous.
What do you think about the whole...
The claim is made that once the league issued a single-game suspension to Alyssa Thomas for an earlier incident, it signaled that the matter wasn't being taken seriously, and that a harsher penalty at that stage might have prevented further scrutiny. Excerpts from 2 members of Congress were included. Representative Mark Alford of Missouri stated that Clark doesn't need defending and hadn't been consulted about the letter, but argued there's a pattern within the league worth investigating, whether it involves discrimination, harassment, or another issue.
What do you think about the whole situation? Caitlin Clark...
She is kept it real. She's not black. She's not lesbian. Yeah, I mean, there you go. That's why she's getting the shit kicked out of her on the court. Let's just be honest. Stephanie White talking about Congress.
Coach, several members of Congress sent a letter this week to Commissioner Engelbert. They said they're concerned about what they called physical hostility and violence toward her. One line in particular said, quote, concerning reports suggest...
He suggested that if the situation were reversed, with a black player facing similar treatment from a group of white opponents, the reaction across the league would be far more severe. Representative Zach Nunn of Iowa spoke about Clark's basketball background, from high school through her record-setting career at the University of Iowa, and her role in growing WNBA viewership and attendance. He described watching games with his daughters and their frustration at seeing hard fouls go uncalled or unpunished, arguing this isn't something fans should have to accept.
Concerning reports suggest that many of these attacks against Caitlin Clark may be racially motivated. What's your reaction to that?
Our team made a statement yesterday, so you can find that statement.
No, I understand that. I just mean as a coach, when you hear one of your players is being mentioned in a letter from members of Congress to the commissioner of the league, how do you handle that?
Again, that's not something we can control. We're not affiliated with those groups, and we try to keep the main thing, and focus on the things that we can control.
Well, you can't control what happens on your courts.
He listed 3 questions lawmakers are asking the league: how it's addressing on-court violence, how it holds that violence accountable, and how it's addressing threats made online and in person. He noted that Clark has drawn attention to several hard fouls that were reviewed only after the fact, several after games had already concluded, and argued the league needs to improve its response.